Hello everyone, my name is Coral. I'm a animator in Eugene, Oregon, and I'm also a co-teacher over at the college, teaching animation too. Um, Popular question at the college is, how do I get my models and rigs from Maya into Unity, and how do I separate up the animations? It's a good question. One we're going to go over right now. I'm going to break it up into two different lessons. The first one will go over how to get your model in, and how to cut up the animations and bake in the animations. And the second one will be on Mecanum and how to set your character up in Mecanum so it can calculate your root motion and setting up the player control so you can get your model running around inside Unity. Okay, so we're going to start out here with this ELF model and rig. This is what all the students are given at Lane, just to give them a fundamental understanding on how a model should look, what a rig should look like, and let them play around with it and see how they can make some simple animations. It's not, by all means, it's not an awesome perfect model or an awesome perfect rig. It's just good for demoing. So if you hit X right here, you can see that there's a skeleton on the inside of the model here. And that the controls obviously control the model as it should. I added in a bunch of animations so that when we bring this over into Unity, we'll have something to work with. The first of which is a kick. So from 1 to 29 is a kick, and then from 30 to 42 is a walk cycle. Some key things to remember. For one is that you have to have, in the bottom left here is a box that says 1. And the far right, this number could be whatever you want. It depends on how long your animations are. This one says 45. That's because I only have 2 animations. So that works for me. If you don't have this set to 1, when you bring it into Unity, it's going to cut off your animations to whatever number this is set at. So if you set this to 10, this is where your model is going to start when you bring it into Unity. It's never going to come back to 1. So if you have a bunch of animations, let's say we started at 30, the entire kick will be gone. There won't be a kick. So simple thing to check. Just make sure that this is set to 1 before you bring it into Unity. Also, make sure that you are writing down what your animations cuts are on your scrub line, because once you get into Unity, it's going to be a lot harder to figure that out. For this one, it's from 1 to 29 is my kick, so I wrote down kick 1 to 29. And then for walk, I wrote walk, animation cut 30 to 42. That way, when I get to Unity, I'm not fumbling around with that and trying to figure it out within that program. So let's go ahead and bring this into Unity and get started. So there's a couple different ways to do it, and I already opened up Unity because it takes a little while to do. Get itself all opened up. I'm not going to go over the UI because I'm assuming that if you're asking these questions, you already have a pretty good fundamental understanding of the UI of Unity. I created a models folder for my assets to go inside of. So there's 2 ways. That's actually probably more than 2 ways, but 2 ways that I typically use to bring in models from Maya. You can go to Assets, Import New Asset, or Import Package. But the way I use them most of the time, I have my Maya file saved right here. It says elf.mb. You can just left click and just drag it straight into the folder, which is great. Unity will just import that into the models folder for us, and just like that, our elf is now in Unity. So you'll see here in the far right corner here in the preview window, there's our elf. If you press play, there's a problem there because there's no animations there, which is expected. The reason why is because the animations haven't been baked in yet. So if you look up in the inspector, which is above the preview window, there at the very top it says import animations, which it did, you just can't see them yet. And then there's bake animations. So if you check bake animations and then go down to the very bottom of the inspector and hit apply, it'll bake them in there. And while it's doing that, I want to kind of note that this red line coming out of the middle of my model here is where Unity thinks the root of my model is. And that's important. We're going to talk about in the next lesson about root motion. If you can keep this following your model, then Mechanism, which is a program within inside of Unity, can calculate the forward movement of your model. If you don't have the root following your model, you're going to have to figure that out by yourself, which means you're going to have to hard code the forward movement of your model, which, speaking from experience, is a real pain. We will go over Mechanism in the next lesson just to make sure that the root motion follows with it, and Unity can calculate your forward motion, which we'll leave to the next lesson. So now that this is done baking in, if you press play, look at that, we got kick and we got walk. Great. But they're not separate yet. And that brings us to the next question. How do we separate up our animations? So if you go up to the inspector again, underneath clips, you'll see take 001, and it says start 1 and 42. They're referring to the time slider, which our animations are along. You can manipulate this manually by dragging this around like that, or if you know what your start and end frames are, you can insert them in here. So start, end. So first one is, first thing is first, we got to name what our clip is. Otherwise, when it comes to plugging these into our player control, you're not going to know what does what. So we're going to call this one kick. Okay. And I know that kick is from frame 1 to 29. So start 1, frame ends on 29. Okay. That one's done. Press play. There's our kick. Perfect. Now we need our walk cycle. So to add another clip, you'll see that there's a plus and a minus underneath 1 and 29. Minus will get rid of a clip, plus will add a clip. So let's hit plus, and now we got another clip. Now we're going to name this one walk. Okay, make sure you press enter. If you don't, if you click on something else after you type walk, it will revert back to take 002. I don't know why it does that. Seems like it should know that you wrote something in there and just keep it, but it doesn't, so make sure you press enter. Next is to write or to adjust our start and end frame. I wrote down that walk is from 30 to 42, so I will insert in start 1 30 to 42, which is already on the side, and I should be done. So let's check out our walk. There it is, walking forward. I'm going to slow this down because I want to note the root motion on it. So we press play. The root is not following. And that's because it hasn't been brought into Mechanism yet. We'll do that next in the next lesson. But that in itself is our 2 clips, which is what we wanted. Now, before I end this lesson, I do want to note one more thing. Back here in our project folder, if you click ELF, drops down, you'll see take 001, and you're probably going to think, wait a minute, where's the rest of my takes? And they just haven't been applied yet. So you click on take 001 and it'll say apply import settings, and you'll say yes, and then it'll do its little thing for a minute, and once it's done, we'll have kick and walk. And at that point, in the next lesson, we'll show how once you've got your player controller, you can take kick and walk and plug them into your player controller. So there it is, kick and walk, and they're underneath our ELF, and we're all good. So that's going to be the end of our first lesson. Thanks for listening, watching, and I hope I see you guys in the next lesson.